Good morning. Okay, it looks like my Facebook streaming is working today. I saw that there's some new rules when it comes to streaming on Facebook. So I don't know why I was blocked from streaming there yesterday, but I'm back today. I am on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Rumble. The YouTube and Rumble accounts are called People's Press Media, and the Facebook and Twitter accounts are my own under my name, Catherine Vitale. I am a lifelong resident of Boston and a former candidate for Boston City Council at large. I ran last year in 2023, and I will hopefully be running again in 2025, God willing. I'm a homeschooling mom, and I have been an activist for the past 3 years, and I have advocated for many issues across the board and across the political spectrum. My activism started with speaking out against the Department of Children and Families, DCF, which is the Massachusetts Agency for Child Protective Services. And then I started paying attention and getting involved in politics, working on political campaigns, and then I got educated and further involved with activism during 2020 and was advocating against the COVID vaccine. Hold on one second. And then in 2022, 2021, the end of 2021, going into 2022, the Boston Mayor, Michelle Wu, newly elected mayor in November of 2021, came in and right away implemented a strict COVID vaccine mandate and threatened to terminate thousands of city employees if they refused to get the jab. And I helped advocate against that, which the protests and direct actions we did against Michelle Wu's mandates garnered national and sometimes international attention and embarrassed Michelle Wu, as it should have, because she is a tyrant and a dictator. And it got to the point where Michelle Wu and the Boston City Council passed an unlawful, anti-constitutional city ordinance that was specifically targeted toward myself and a small group of individuals who were protesting outside of Michelle Wu's house. Peaceful protests. They passed this city ordinance that, was completely meant to silence us, and specifically us. Nobody else. This was a self-serving ordinance made to shield Michelle Wu from having to hear or see dissent from her constituents, and from having her be embarrassed in front of her neighbors and in front of national and international media. And basically, it was used to start to create a database on political dissent against Michelle Wu. The first piece of proof that we had that they were keeping data on us was a email that went out from Michelle Wu's office to the Boston Police, which was a list of 15 names of pretty much our most vocal critics. And once our names got sent in that email, the Boston Police started taking swift action toward us and arresting us during peaceful protesting demonstrations. And so I've been in court for almost over 2 years for being arrested while holding a sign across the street from Michelle Wu's house. I was charged with disturbing the peace, myself and Shannon Llewellyn. We are both in court, and Sean Nelson is also in court for arrests that he has pertaining to peaceful protesting. And it's absolutely ridiculous. It's tyrannical. It is unlawful. It's anti-constitutional. And that's what's happening. So for the past few days here, I've been talking about, what happened in 2022, kind of rehashing the process that went through for the city council to pass this unlawful ordinance, and watching the public hearing that they had and giving some commentary to it, and kind of just trying to shine a light on it, because people need to understand how corrupt our government is and how important it is to get involved at a local level. And we need to be paying attention, especially right now in Massachusetts. A huge deal is being made about this Karen Reed trial, which, if you're following the Karen Reed trial, then you're not watching me right now. You'll be watching me on my replay, hopefully, because it's past 9 o'clock, and I am not 100% sure, but I think that there is trial proceedings happening today. So I'm also following the Karen Reed trial. However, we wouldn't be able to get to the level of an innocent person being framed for murder, and police covering murder of a Boston police officer if we dealt with corruption that happens every single day, that people tend to overlook and ignore, kind of with an ignorant normalcy bias, like, this is just how things are. There's nothing we can do to change it. That type of mindset and thinking is very detrimental to our freedom and to our Constitution and to the way of life as we've known it thus far. So, it is a big deal when I've talked about, asking the public officials or public employees, asking for people to show ID to go into a public meeting. People think that that's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. Things like this that we overlook literally on a daily basis are very important. And, if we lose our freedom of speech, we lose our freedom, period. We lose our system of government, our way that our country was supposed to operate. And if America is the leader of the free world, as we've been led to believe that it is, when America goes down, everybody else goes down. So these things are very important. And so, like I said, I've been rehashing the events that took place in 2022 over the past few days. I just spent 2 days talking about the public hearing that they had to pass the ordinance. Mainly that stemmed from the decision that we got from our judge last week. She denied our motion for selective prosecution when it's clear that we are being selectively, relentlessly, maliciously prosecuted by the Suffolk County DA's district attorney, Kevin Hayden's office. So much so that Kevin Hayden actually signed a statement in 2022 condemning our protests and saying that, he would go to whatever extent necessary to end the hateful attacks on Michelle Wu, or whatever, saying that we were racist and white supremacists and all that nonsense. So that's what I've been talking about. But I'm going to take a break from that conversation for now. There was something else that I came across yesterday that I want to talk about today really quickly. And I know that I'm going to be busy over the next few days and I'm not going to be able to come back. So I didn't, in talking about the ordinance, the next thing I want to talk about is the working session that the Boston City Council had when deliberating the passing of this ordinance, and that and then not come back to continue that. And I know that I probably won't be streaming live tomorrow. So today I want to talk about an issue. I did do a live about it a couple weeks ago. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, aka DESE, DESE, essentially the Department of Education for the state of Massachusetts. I feel like they give agencies like this weird names that like might be confusing to some people, and that's intentional, because never does the government or any of its non-governmental agencies, organizations, never do they want you to understand what's going on. They don't want you to be in the know about what's happening. They try to make everything about them, their processes and everything, like ridiculously confusing, so that regular people either don't understand what's happening or don't even bother trying to understand what's happening, right? And we've fallen into a place in society where, you know, the government has been very strict about schooling for children, and we've been made to believe that we have to send our children to school, right? I know that more and more people are starting to homeschool now, especially after everything was shut down in 2020 and people were forced to figure it out when kids couldn't go to school, right? And then a lot of people were like, you know what? I like having my kid home from school. You know, I like this situation that I was forced to figure out. I'm not going to send them back. I was one of those parents. And I mean, more so deciding to homeschool my kid because of the curriculum and the types of things that are being indoctrinated in the public schools. And it's not just the public schools, it's the charter schools and the private schools too. All of those places receive government funding in one way or another, and therefore are expected and made to follow certain procedure and protocol for what they teach. So anyway, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which I will refer to as DESE, I did a video a couple weeks ago on how I tried to attend their monthly board meeting and was blocked entry by, I guess, a security guard there. This guy like doesn't ever tell anybody his title. I don't know exactly what his title is. Paul Berry is his name. But so I tried to attend. The department was located in Malden recently. Appointed they are. They are not elected. They're not an elected body. They make recommendations for all of the school districts across Massachusetts. So Massachusetts has 351 municipalities. I don't necessarily know that that means that there's 351 school districts. There may be more, there may be less. I don't know that exact number, but DESE is the one that makes the recommendations. So keep in mind the language that they use, okay? Recommendations, meaning school districts don't have to abide by the things that DESE sets forth, but they are made to believe that they do. It's kind of like the word mandate, how people believed that they had to comply with mandates, even though it's not a law and there's no penalty for, there can't be a legal penalty for not complying with a mandate. It's the same thing with the Department of Education. We're made to believe that they make the rules and they set the standards for all of the school districts to follow, like they have to follow them, but they don't. But I think that the vast majority, if not all, choose to follow DESE standards. And DESE chooses the curriculum, and they just passed a new curriculum last year that has is heavy on the sex education, which I have talked about in previous videos and will talk about in future videos, but that's not what today's video is about. So essentially, like, my first question with DESE is, why do we elect school committees if they're basically just taking direction from DESE? So it's like DESE's calling the shots, right? That's a huge, like, overhanging question for me. What is the point of a school committee? Because if you've ever been to a school committee in Massachusetts, you've probably heard at one point or another, when you're asking the school committee questions, it's not up to us, it's up to DESE, or we didn't make these rules or guidelines, DESE did, right? Talk to DESE. And talking to DESE is completely impossible, and DESE will just refer you back to your school committee or your superintendent or whatever, right? And so I live in Boston, so we actually don't even have an elected school committee. Our school committee is appointed by the mayor. Mm. 2021, I think, to return back to an elected committee, but because Michelle Wu doesn't like the idea of an elected committee, our vote doesn't matter, and we will continue to go through at least 4 years of having like this hybrid phase in process where some of the school committee members are elected and some of them are appointed. But I digress. To the point, because I'm not trying to be on here for like more than an hour today. We can get into details about DESE another day. If you guys have questions, put them in the comments and I will address questions, because people need to know this information. It's very important, especially if you have kids in school, especially if you're in a situation where you feel like you can't homeschool. You definitely can. So if you have questions about homeschooling or can't figure out how to start, or you think that you're not equipped or qualified to homeschool, please reach out to me. Please go to boston2boston.com and reach out to me there, because everybody's capable of homeschooling and we give way too much credit to schools. Yeah, again, and a topic for another day, but if you have questions about homeschooling, please reach out to me. Anybody is capable of homeschooling, I promise you. But if you're somebody who has their kids in school and not aware of everything that's going on with DESE, which I don't think anybody is, I'm not aware of everything that's going on with DESE, you should definitely start paying attention. But I was going through their meeting agenda yesterday, because they do have a monthly meeting during the school year. So they typically don't have meetings in July and August. I think sometimes they are likely to have one in August, like a special meeting, just if they need to clear anything up before the school year officially starts. But for the most part, their last meeting of the school year is in June. So that would be next Tuesday. I unfortunately can't attend their meetings because I will not show my ID to get in. And it is a violation of open meeting law, a violation of First, Fourth, and Ninth Amendments. I'm not doing it. Again, a conversation for another day, a conversation I actually had a couple weeks ago. But I found on their agenda yesterday a memorandum from the acting commissioner of the Board of Education about their supports. I mean, you might have seen it in my description already and in the title of this video, talking about the supports that they have for newly arriving students, which, if you're not familiar, that is the term that I give to illegal immigrants. So I'm going to pull up this memorandum, and this is something that they will be discussing on their agenda next Tuesday. My thoughts exactly, Sean. Thank you. Okay. Let me see if I can make this any bigger. Okay. So, item 4 on the agenda for the next DESE meeting, next Tuesday, June 18th, is a memorandum to the members of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, BESE, from Russell D. Johnson, who is the acting commissioner. The former commissioner was Jeff Riley. I don't know exactly why he left, but it was fairly recently. This was written on June 10th, 2024, and the subject is supports for newly arrived homeless students. This memorandum updates the Board of Education and Secondary Education, which will be referred to as board in this memo, on steps taken by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to support districts that are experiencing Sorry, I just wanted to make sure you guys could see that. I'm like flipping back between screens. I'm going to try to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. This memorandum updates the Board of Education on steps taken by DESE to support districts that are experiencing an influx of newly arrived homeless students in connection with the emergency assistance shelter system. Massachusetts has welcomed nearly 3,000 newly arrived homeless students through the emergency assistance shelter system in school year 2023 to 2024, and the students have enrolled in 80 districts across the state. Through coordinated efforts by the executive branch with support from the legislature, the Commonwealth is providing school districts with various forms of assistance as they enroll and serve the increased population of students experiencing homelessness, many of whom are also English learners. Districts have received additional funding to address students' immediate needs, as well as funding to reimburse them for associated educational costs. Districts also receive funding to transport students who elect to remain in their school of origin in a different city or town, as provided under the federal McKinney-Vento Act. I don't know what that is. We'll look into that later. In addition, districts have been provided access to a variety of state resources, technical assistance, and professional learning offerings that are available at no cost to them. These supports include access to DESE's contract for translation for documents and interpretation via video and phone for conversations. That can't be cheap. Technical assistance, webinars, and professional learning for educators and administrators. Approved vendors and DESE content experts are providing this support, which addresses topics such as family engagement, social, emotional, and mental health supports, high quality instruction for English learners, and building the capacity of districts' systems to enroll and support newly arrived students. Grant funding and professional learning to increase the number of teachers who are certified in English as a second language and those who hold an endorsement in Shelter English sheltered English immersion in eligible districts. At the board meeting on June 18th, 2024, Assistant Director of Student and Family Support, Kristen McKinnon, Director of the Office of Language Acquisition, Allison Balter, and Chief Schools Officer, Kamal Basin, will present an overview of these efforts and respond to your questions. Your questions meaning the questions of the board, not of the public. Never that. They will also be joined public school districts who will give an overview of their district's efforts to support newly arrived students. So there's that. I, for one, have seen school buses leaving. Where was it? Lexington to go to Medford? Was it Medford? So it's interesting that these people, Medford, they're taking migrants from hotels that they're living at, being sheltered at, and driving them from Lexington to Medford, right? That's one instance that I just happened to see when I was in Lexington one day, right? So I can only imagine how much that's happening. I've also seen and heard of people being given, like those shuttles that take places from hotels, like hotel shuttles that bring people to various locations, right? Typically like a service that the hotel offers. I've seen like shuttle vans and buses bringing illegal immigrants from shelter, like said like whatever hotel, to doctor's appointments far away, like one's like an hour or so away. So if you like, we have not even been able to get like concrete numbers of how many illegal immigrants have been brought into Massachusetts over the past, who knows, year, 2 years, 3 years, but it's somewhere. I think I want to say within the past 3 years, the number is somewhere around 288,000 at this point. Because I know at one point we knew that it was around 250,000. And then it was said that like 30,000 more had come in since a certain date or whatever. But it has been a very difficult task for anybody to get the exact numbers of how many of these people are being brought into Massachusetts, right? And I mean, when they're brought to Massachusetts, they're coming on planes. They're being, and I mean, at Boston Logan Airport, the people are posting pictures almost every single day about what it looks like overnight at the airport, and they're sleeping in the airport. Some of them have air mattresses, like they've got stuff. I was at Roxbury. Me and Sean and a few other people, we were at Roxbury a couple times. We didn't interact with any of the immigrants because they, who knows if they speak English or what, I don't know, but nobody was trying to talk to us. And there were people put in place to kind of like keep them away from us. So even if they did try to talk to us, like there was somebody there to like usher them away. But, and I don't have anything against these immigrants, to be honest with you. You can have whatever opinion about me you want to for that, but it's not, my problem is not with these immigrants. I mean, the ones who are criminals that are here and committing crime, then yeah, I don't like those people and I don't want them here and they have no reason or right to be here and they need to be deported. And there's quite a few of them, right? But as far as, the probably the majority of the people coming here were at some point sold some idea of what they were getting themselves into. You know, these people aren't refugees. These people aren't escaping dangerous situations in their countries. These people have fucking, sorry, these people have Jordans and iPhones, like expensive sneakers, expensive phones, electronic devices, nice clothes. I saw the people in Roxbury. I saw the people in Roxbury. I've seen pictures of the people in other places in Massachusetts. I've seen pictures of the people in the airports. These people are not poor. Not all of them. Maybe some. But, the American government is giving them some type of incentive to come here. And they're coming here for reasons that we don't know, right? Maybe to build a life here, maybe to build a business here, maybe to make money here that is not attainable in their country to send back home. It happens all the time. When these people come here and get hired and get government jobs, they get paid top dollar. Government jobs pay well, and we've seen government jobs pay undocumented migrants plenty of times. So, I mean, we have a city councilor or two right now that were already working for the city of Boston before they were elected officials, and they were undocumented. Getting paid upward of $80,000 a year. I've never made $80,000 a year, I don't think, in any job that I've been in, and I've been in some pretty decent paying jobs. So, city jobs pay well. Yeah, unless it's like teacher or EMT or something like that, those unimportant jobs, those don't pay well. But other city jobs do pay well. These people who are doing important things like civic engagement and neighborhood services, those jobs pay really well, right? Hold on. It's and then those public sector jobs, they pay well, and then private sector jobs, big corporations that are privately owned who work hand in hand with the government anyway, so you can basically consider them all one and the same. They're getting cheap labor out of these undocumented people. So all of the people up here are winning. All of us down here, America's middle class and poor class, people living in poverty, because there basically isn't even a middle class anymore. The middle class is living in poverty at this point. We're at the same level with these migrants, okay? We are all part of the 99%. We're all being duped. We're all being screwed. We're all being lied to. We're all being played. So my issue is not with probably the majority of these people being brought here. My issue is with the government, our government, their government. It's basically trafficking. Why are they bringing so many people here, right? Why are our schools being overburdened with people who are not citizens of this country, right? There was another thing aside from this agenda item that will be discussed in DESE meeting next Tuesday. There's also this other thing. Let me see if I can bring it up that I found. Hold on. Okay, so hold on. Let me share my screen with this one. This is a memorandum from April 6, 2022. So yeah, it's 2 years old, but it likely still applies. And just the fact that things like this are said anyway, it doesn't even really matter when they were, as long as it was within the past couple of years. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, so this is from April 6, 2022. It is to superintendents, charter school leaders, assistant superintendents, collaborative leaders, and leaders of approved special education schools. So this isn't even to public schools. It's to, well, I mean, it's to their superintendents, so I guess. Welcoming newcomer and refugee students and families. As a result of various global circumstances, districts across Massachusetts have seen an increase in recent months of newly arrived students, many of whom are refugees resettling in communities throughout the state. Some communities, for example, are welcoming Afghan families as part of Operation Allies Welcome, while others are seeing an increasing number of new arrivals from Brazil, Haiti, and Central America. Many of these newcomers are school-age children who require enrollment in school as soon as possible. They may be residing with friends or relatives and may have needs that require various support services, and some may be students with limited or interrupted formal education, exacerbated by the ongoing pandemic. The memo provides information and resources for districts to support enrollment and education of newcomer and refugee students. We encourage you to share this memo and resources with school building leaders and district staff who work with families. Enrollment. Newcomer and refugee school-age students are legally entitled to equal access to a free public education without regard to their or their parents' or guardians' national origin or immigration status, as established by the U.S. Supreme Court in Plyler v. Doe from 1982. Newcomer and refugee school-age students have the right to attend the public schools in the town in which they reside and must be permitted to enroll in public schools without undue delay. While the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education anticipates that many newcomer and refugee students will lack the paperwork that the districts ordinarily require for enrollment, districts should enroll students and begin educating them as quickly as possible. For example, newly arrived families may not have leases or utility bills in their names, or they may arrive without their child's birth certificate. In cases where newly arrived families do not have the documents the districts ordinarily use to verify eligibility for enrollment, districts should work with families to find alternative means to establish residency or proof of age and facilitate prompt enrollment of students. For example, if a family does not have a birth certificate for a child, the district may accept an affidavit from the parent indicating the child's date of birth. If the student's parent, guardian, or person acting in place of the parent has limited English proficiency, the district must arrange for translation or interpretation services as needed to facilitate prompt enrollment. In some instances, newcomer and refugee students may qualify as homeless and will be entitled to immediate enrollment in school under federal law, even if they lack the paperwork that the district typically requires for enrollment. For example, students are considered homeless if they are sharing the housing of other persons due to loss of housing or economic hardship, are living in motels or hotels, are living in emergency or transitional shelters, or have a primary nighttime residence that is a public or private place not designed for or ordinarily used to provide regular sleeping accommodations. For more information, please see McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Assistance Advisories. Okay, and then it goes on about English learner services, special education services, information resources, and more information and resources, right? So, have you ever brought your child to enroll in school and got turned away because you didn't have a certain piece of documentation? Have you ever applied for benefits at the DTA and gotten turned away because you didn't have a certain piece of documentation? I know that I have. Okay, I know that recently I've been told that even though the paternity has not been contested of one of my children by either myself or their father or anybody else, nobody's questioning the paternity. But for some reason, I'm being told that I need to subject my child to a paternity test because father's name is not on the birth certificate. My child, an American citizen, needs to be subject to giving the government her DNA to prove that her father is her father when nobody is contesting this fact. But somebody who is not a citizen of this country can just come here. Like they don't have to do a DNA test to prove that they're this kid's parent. Anybody who just signs a piece of paper that says that that child is theirs can just enroll them into school and get on with life. Like that's good enough. Like, how do we know the child wasn't stolen? How do we know that they didn't kidnap that child? Because you get more benefits and better benefits when you have minors in your household. For those who aren't aware of that fact, it's easier and more accessible to get help when you are a household with minor children. So who's to say that the immigrants aren't literally kidnapping children to come here and have it easier on them to be able to get government assistance? Because all they have to do is sign a piece of paper saying that the kid is theirs. And then they're enrolled in school, and then this person's going to be helped getting into housing and getting a job and becoming a citizen. Right? So, when it comes to DESE, in order for a citizen, a member of the public, to even just attend their open meeting, their public meeting, I have to show picture ID and put my name on a list. But for people who are not citizens, they basically can just whatever flies. That this child just needs to be in school immediately, and we are supposed to overlook every single protocol and method of enrollment that we use for our citizens and just bring these kids right in with no proof that the person who is who has them in their possession is actually even their parent. So, there's a lot of problems to unfold here. It's like every single time you even like look in the direction of a government agency or a non-governmental organization, you find 17 more issues to fall down a rabbit hole of. Nothing is legit. Nothing is lawful, constitutional. Nothing is ever truthful. There is no transparency. There is no accountability. Everything is arbitrary and everything is put in place to benefit and line the pockets of the richest of the rich, which are the highest level of politicians and whatever elites are running the world, right? So, yeah, these are some things that I found on the DESE website that I figured that I'd share. This agenda item that is going to be discussed at their meeting next Tuesday. And I mean, as far as I know, many schools are failing academically. Children are not learning in schools. There's being much more focus put on DEI and sex education and mental health in schools than there is on academics. So, we're more concerned about, does your child feel like they were born with the wrong body parts, rather than, can your child do a simple math problem and write an essay or read a book? It's just completely backwards. Honestly, at this point, like, if you have any sanity or you have any common sense, I don't think that you would be sending your child to school. And again, and a million times over, if you are somebody who thinks that you are either not capable, not qualified, you can't afford, whatever reason you have that you can't homeschool, I guarantee you there is a way. I mean, especially if you're somebody who believes in God, you should know that no matter what, if you put your faith and trust in God, He will not do you wrong. Okay? These schools are indoctrination centers. These schools are not even being called schools anymore. That's another video that I'm going to do for you, to talk about the language and the changing of words over time, over decades and centuries, and how they are manipulating everything to turn it into a one world government dictatorship. The kids in schools are not learning academics. Okay, they're not learning how to write cursive. What does that mean? They're not going to be able to read historical documents. They can't read cursive. They're not. We're taking down historical statues. We're renaming buildings and schools and streets and neighborhoods to things that have no meaning at all. There's schools that used to be named after, historic figures or influential people in our history, something that there's a story behind, and naming them things that mean nothing. Like I think we have a Green Academy, we have an Up Academy, we have schools with names that mean nothing, right? And we're just erasing history like by the day. And if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? It is very much a part of the New World Order agenda to erase history. And that's what they're doing. All under the guise of making the future better, right? So it's like they're getting people to believe, like a lot of people believe that these steps that they're taking are for the betterment of the future of people, and they're not. And this is dangerous. We're in a really dangerous place. And in society, not just Massachusetts, not just Boston, we're in a really dangerous place. in the world and in society where histories are being changed. Schools are not teaching academics anymore. Schools are teaching kids to question their identity, to be in a constant mental health crisis. We have constant diagnosing and treatment of children in schools. Schools are basically mental health clinics at this point, even like physical health clinics, legislation passing all over the country to allow, school staff and like school nurses and stuff to give medication or, things like that to students without parental consent. Yeah. There's all sorts of things happening. So, I mean, the basis of that rant is just like, take your kids out of school. Okay. Like, I'm going to continue to keep an eye on DESE and on school districts. And, sometimes people will call me and say, hey, like, can you come to the school committee meeting? And, you see from my lives that sometimes I go to school committee meetings, but, help people advocate or whatever, or just be there to have extra eyes. Or an extra body in the room, and it's very important that we keep our eyes on all bodies of government and all governmental and non-governmental agencies that are part of any of this planning period. But in the meantime, protect your own kids, because that's your responsibility. You were given that divine responsibility from God to, you were given the gift and the blessing of bringing life into this world. And sorry, it's your responsibility. You need to take care of your kids and keep them out of these schools. They're not learning anything there. They can build a social life outside of schools. You can put them on sports teams. You can build your own sports teams. You can build your own homeschool pods, homeschool groups, book groups, library groups, park groups, whatever. It's social programming and conditioning that makes us think that homeschooled kids are weird. Homeschooled kids are, being raised and growing up to be antisocial weirdos. This is conditioning. There's nothing weird about a child being with their parent or parent 24 hours a day. That's not weird. That's the way that God intended it. God intended for us to protect our children. God intended for our children to be our responsibility, not for us to drop them off to strangers every day and hope for the best. That's not what God intended. So I hope that I can keep having conversations like this, and I hope that the number of people interacting in the comments will at some point reflect the number of viewers on the video. Because as I've said in the last 3 or 4 videos that I've had, the number of viewers is pretty high for my typical live stream. And the number of people interacting in the comments doesn't change. It's always like the same less than 10 people pretty much that are commenting, and people who are already aware of the things that I'm talking about usually. So I hope that changes, and I hope that people do, get more comfortable with being uncomfortable and having uncomfortable conversations, and even starting uncomfortable conversations with people who disagree with them, or people who may seem intimidating, because I know for my children, I want them to have a future. I don't want to leave this fight for them. So I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that they don't have to do this. And I hope that at some point, somewhere along the line, more people will step up to do the right thing. And rather than letting a paycheck or a tyrannical government make their decisions for them, they will realize that if you truly trust in God, then you don't have anything to worry about. And you don't need that paycheck. And God will always have your back as long as you're doing the right thing. So I'm going to go now. If you have any questions about DESE or any questions about homeschooling, please reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. I didn't even put my banner up today, but there it is. Go to boston2boston.com. You can subscribe for email updates. As I say on every one of my videos, I am not a professional web designer. I am not a professional podcaster or media person. I try to post content as much as I can. I try to update my websites and my social media accounts as much as I can, but I am me and only me, and I don't have a paycheck. And I'm sorry if I don't get the content up as fast and as efficiently as it should be up, but I'm working by myself here. I'm editing videos by myself here. I'm planning live streams by myself, and I'm trying to still do direct action, working with the people that I work with. So please be patient with me. And, if there's any way that anybody can ever help with any of these efforts, please let me know. Always looking for people to step up and help in any way possible. So, thank you. I'm going to go. And like I said, I'm going to be really busy over the next few days. I will probably be streaming live at some points over the next few days, just probably for a slew of different reasons and topics. So thank you guys for watching. Please go to boston2boston.com. Check out the website. Subscribe for email updates. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and the Rumble channel. They're both called People's Press Media. And follow me on all my platforms. Just yesterday I went live and I wasn't able to stream to Facebook, so that was annoying. And now today I'm streaming to 2 different locations on Facebook, and both of them are working. So you never know when you're going to get kicked off of a platform. So please subscribe to all of my platforms if you can, under either Catherine Vitale or People's Press Media, and stay up to date with what's going on in Boston, in Massachusetts, in the court system, where a bunch of us are being relentlessly and maliciously and selectively prosecuted, and with also, as the banner says, efforts to recall Wu, because we're working on that too. And we are looking for an attorney right now to help with writing the petition to recall Wu. So if anybody can help us with an attorney, that would be great. Yeah, go to boston2boston.com. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend. It's Wednesday. Whatever. I'll see you when I see you. Thank you.